In West Philly, Darisha Harris and her partner EO are creating a database. The data shows which houses are doing it big for Halloween. They're calling it a fright registry, a community generated list of who's got the best candy and who's got the scariest decorations. And since Halloween is next Friday, you've got plenty of time to check out all of the scary spots. Add to the list and maybe create a fright registry of your own. It's Tuesday, October 21st. I'm Trinae Nuri, and here's where to trick or treat in West Philly. As I read about you and your partner, EO, creating this fright registry in the West Philly local, I immediately thought, well, how does West Philly do Halloween? How do y'all do it?
West Philly does Halloween with a lot of creativity. I think that's why I was inspired to do this. I know for us, I grew up in a household with a lot of hand-me-downs and thrift store clothes, but I really don't feel bad about that. Like, I feel like it taught me a lot about creativity and kind of trusting my own style. And so the way we personally do it is like, all of our costumes and decorations are usually like majority homegrown and designed. And that's kind of our thing. We like to do a theme every year. But no matter how folks do it, I think the important thing is just about creating magic for the community. And so I've seen so many people out there creating that kind of magic and just really wanted to lift that up and highlight it because I think there's just a lot of love out there and a lot of fun to be had.
I can't wait to experience this. It does sound magical. So, Darisha, tell me, what is the theme of your house this year?
Well, I will say that our theme, we usually do it a secret until the night of, I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
But I can give some hints, which is like, prepare to see a lot of mushrooms. And I did want to shout out some of my other neighbors and how they do it up. We've got some really awesome folks who have their own long history of doing Halloween out here. We've got the Haunted Alley, which is a whole block of folks who kind of turn their back alley into a festive walk. We've got the Urban Art Gallery that does a haunted house. This is going to be their second year for that. The new Yamatorium, which is an art space that has a lot of creative sculpture and kind of kinesthetic art that's going to be doing some Halloween. We've got folks who do a miniature haunted house, and there's the Porch of Doom. They do a political themed one. So there are just a lot of folks who get creative with it and set up things that are fun for the neighborhood.
Why does the neighborhood need a fright registry? And is this the first time that you're doing something like this?
So this is my first time. And what inspired me was just in being kind of a Halloween house, we would overhear a lot of conversation. And so I'd often hear folks talking to each other trick-or-treating, and they would sort of say like, oh, did you see the candy chute that's a few blocks down? And they'd be like, oh, no, we didn't see that. You know, we would have missed it. Or talking to Carl at Urban Art Gallery, and a bunch of people came over to the haunted house after it was closing down and were like, oh, you know, we didn't know this was here, but someone mentioned it, and now we're too late. So kind of this idea that there's a lot going on, but people don't necessarily know where to go unless they stumble over it or happen to have a conversation. And sometimes I also hear from folks who are on a smaller side street, or they're a little farther out west, and they put all this effort into these amazing displays, but don't get as many trick-or-treaters because folks just don't know that it's there. And so it's a way to kind of highlight and shout out folks who are off the beaten path as well. And one of the things I always say is that we also hear is people coming by our house and sort of saying like, oh, see, like you don't have to go to the suburbs to have a good Halloween. Like we can do that here.
Exactly.
And I just love that sense of like neighborhood pride that we get to do this for ourselves and for each other and have that level of excitement and magic that sometimes people end up like paying a lot for or having to travel really far for, that we get to do that for ourselves. So it's really an opportunity to connect neighbors, so that Halloweeners and trick-or-treaters know where to go and where to see the cool stuff. And so we can also uplift each other and kind of shout out the people that are putting effort into making it special.
This sounds like such a great community. And I'm curious, what are the borders? So, what are the street borders that are included in the Fright Registry?
Yeah, so the borders are from 45th Street to 60th and from Market to Baltimore. But I always say ish, right? If there's someone who's real enthused, who's just outside of that, we're happy to include them. It's not a hard boundary. It's just sort of the idea to both focus on this neighborhood and getting to hype up folks around here. And also because I'm mostly just doing it as a team of one and my partner who's helping me, it's like, those are the boundaries of where I can bike to easily and be able to spread the word and see houses that should definitely be on the registry.
And Darisha, what's been the response like? How many listings have you gotten so far?
Let's see, I have to check it today. I think last time I checked, we were over 40 listings on there and have just gotten a lot of positive responses, I think, especially from the folks who get into doing Halloween, of just getting psyched about this existing, and then some of the families as well who are excited to be able to use it when they're trick-or-treating.
All right, we've got more about the West Philly Fright Registry after the break. Darisha, do you think other neighborhoods could benefit from a registry like this?
Yeah, I think it could be fun for any place that wants to shout each other out in that way. I know not everyone gets into Halloween in the same way, but I was actually inspired in some part by something that Garden Court does during Christmas. They have like a little treasure hunt of different Christmas decorations. And it just seemed like a sweet way to shout out folks who were doing that around that holiday. So I know that Halloween isn't everybody's thing, but I encourage folks to figure out what is your neighborhood thing and having ways to shout that out and connect people. I always say, like, one of the reasons that Halloween is my favorite holiday is because it's the only American holiday that is about neighborhood and community, not just family. So it's really about connecting with your neighbors, going door to door, like being outside on the street together. And so that really inspires me to have Halloween be my thing also. I'm just a lover of the holiday. But I think anything that can help communities connect with each other and celebrate like joy and creativity is really important, especially right now. I do wonder if I could share one story.
Yeah,
And
sure.
it was one of the things that inspired us. We've been doing costuming for a long time, but little by little, we started getting into the house. And one of the first years we did it was 2020. And that was when we had this giant robot. Our theme was like robots. So we did like one of those Rube Goldberg machines in the front yard. And we had this 20-foot robot on our roof of our porch. And you have to imagine in 2020, we were like still in the lockdown.
Hmm.
And everyone's still wearing masks. You know, we figured out a way for our mask to be part of our costume. We had a candy shoot because we were still in this place of being like, we can't be more than 6 feet close to each other. So it like went from our stoop to the sidewalk. And we didn't get as many trick-or-treaters that year. But what we did get was so many people. We'd get so many people just walking by and stopping and saying like, oh my God, thank you for doing this. Even people driving who would pull over and get out of their car and just look up and be like, oh, wow, I didn't know I needed this, but I did. And it was
Mm.
such a hard time that I think that having that little piece of lightness felt really significant. And sometimes we like underestimate how important these rituals of like joy and creativity and community can be in hard times. And I just think about this moment is a hard time for a lot of folks, and we can't always end the things that are difficult, even as we work to end those things. But the thing we can always do is make the joy bigger. And so part of this registry is just thinking about in this moment in particular, like what are ways we can make the joy bigger and really lean into those rituals of community and connection.
Well said. And how can people get started on something like this?
I think it's just figuring out what your passion is and what your neighbors' passions are. What do you see a lot of in the neighborhood? Maybe it's block parties, maybe it's, street performances. What do you get excited about? And how can you use that to connect? And it doesn't have to, we've got the introverts too. It's like it could be a book club. It doesn't have to be everyone, but I just encourage people to find that passion and figure out how to use it to connect with other folks in their neighborhoods, because that's something that gets lost a little bit nowadays. We're very like disconnected, very virtual. So it's a nice way to get out there in real life.
We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about decorations because Halloween is just 10 days away. Okay, so it's October 21st, 10 days away from the big day. I'm still trying to figure out how to decorate my porch for the season. What are some of the popular decorations you're seeing in West Philly?
I would say one that's really big this year, I've seen a number of places, is like the giant spider web that goes from the house to like the end of the
Yes.
port or into the yard. And I think it's a really good one for folks who don't have a lot of space to work with or landscape. Maybe, you just got a little small patio and you've already got some chairs on it. That gives you a whole new shelf to like put your decorations on, these giant spider webs. So that's been a fun one that I've seen a lot of. And I'm always like skeletons. You can do a lot with skeletons. You can dress them up every year, put them in different poses. I feel like they're a very versatile decoration. I also love that I've seen a lot more lights in the last few years. And I feel like that definitely just ups the magic at night when you've got those lights going.
Yes, I've seen giant skeletons in my neighborhood. I'm talking like they're taller than the house and they
Hmm.
have like Eagles jerseys on it, again, draped in those lights. I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier about that kind of cultural stereotype that you have to take your kids trick or treating in the suburbs to get like the good candy. But that's not true in your neighborhood is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's this idea that you have to go far away to have those fun experiences, or that even you have to like go to a place where people are going to be able to spend a ton of money on like really big dramatic decorations. And I think that really just what it takes is creativity and people having that desire to do that for the community. I know I grew up in Washington, D.C. I've been in Philly now for 20 years, but originally I was in D.C. And when I was coming up, it was Capitol Hill was like the place to go. And at that time, it was like a lot of artists and bohemian folks. And so they would get into costume. They would, create something kind of homemade. And I remember loving it so much. It was like all this love and energy put into something that like wasn't for money, wasn't to get anything out of it. It was just to create magic in the community. And I remember thinking like, okay, that's the kind of person I want to be. And I still always say that my favorite part of being a grown up is being the person to hand out candy and create fun on Halloween. And I think that's really what I think is the important piece of it, is just bringing that creativity. So it's like if you've got some clothes and you want to like stuff them and turn it into a scarecrow, and you're going to make some, fun sounds and sit on the front porch and tell every kid who comes by what you love about their costume, like that is magic. And we have plenty of that right here in West Philly.
Is your house going to be scary?
Yeah, we do. We do often go for the scary, but we have sort of a system to it because, you get a wide range. So we often have a little signal between me and my partner of like who's showing up. So if we've got the young ones, we'll give the little signal. And it's kind of like, okay, this one's going to be like a more low key interaction. And then we usually have some extra scares that we'll save for like when the middle schoolers and up come up. Sometimes we've even been like, hey, do you want to see something scary? And a trick-or-treater will say, yeah, totally. Or they'll say, no. And it's like, okay, then here's your candy and have a great Halloween. So it's giving that consent, that choice.
Yes, I love that. I also grew up in a neighborhood over in Delaware County, just outside of Philly. And there were families who didn't celebrate Halloween. How can they maybe still experience the benefits of community during this time, do you think?
Mm, that's a really good question. And I think it kind of depends on what those limits feel like for each person, like what they feel comfortable engaging in. But I know, for example, one of our spots is the Cobbs Creek Environmental Center is doing like a trick or treat autumn harvest trail on the 25th. And so I think that there are some ways to engage depending on like what folks feel comfortable with in terms of like, do you feel okay, going out to get candy, but not doing it in costume? Do you feel okay having an event that is, centered on fall and celebrating fall and trying to think about what are the different ways that folks can engage with this time of year in particular that feel good to them?
And Christmas being a few months away, are you and EO planning to do a holiday or Christmas West Philly registry?
Oh, our focus is Halloween. So
Okay.
I'm happy for it to exist, but it might have to be someone else's project.
Darisha Harris, thank you so much for joining me on CityCast Philly today.
Oh, so welcome. It's been really lovely to be here.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode about the West Philly Fright Registry, you got to share this with a friend. And also rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye. Okay, the journalist in me is still trying to figure this out. And I'm not quite sure. You said mushrooms. So then I'm like, okay, well, what's your costume going to be?
Well, it's all in the theme. Like the costumes always match the house.
I'm thinking maybe a wizard, or maybe you would be a mushroom. Got to figure this out.